G'day subscribers. We all have a story about how we got to our classic car, and today I'm going to talk about how I got to the FJ Holden. Your Jules night on Jive Talking Garage. Well, g'day folks, and thanks for joining us in the Jive Talking Garage today. Now, I was brought up as an only child, and that was at Mount Gravatt in Brisbane. It's a suburb about 10 miles outside of the CBD, and we were sort of the first ones to buy the land when it was first developed as a duck farm. My dad did that. He picked the biggest block that they had, and consequently, we were the last ones to build on it because we were already living in West End. And my dad had Holdens first, and then he went into luxury cars with Valiant. So I sort of, from everything I knew, I grew up with Valiants. Now, let's just say I was at the bottom of the hill, and there was another only child family around the corner on top of the hill, and my friend's name was Mark, and it wasn't uncommon for his parents to talk to mine and say, look, we're going away, could Jules come and keep Mark company? So I did that on a few trips and whatever, and Mark was always a lot more handier than me, and he still is to that matter. But so we've sort of probably known each other since being 7 years of age, I suppose. And around 1979, Mark wanted an FJ Holden because his dad had a black ute before he went into Broms and Fairlanes and things like that. And Mark wanted an FJ ute. So he got a nice grey one, and it was something that we worked on. Mark had far much more mechanical aptitude than I did, and I was in awe sometimes of the things that he could do. But that sort of got me started on FJs. So let's see if we can get a picture of Mark's car for you here. Now, after that, my dad owned taxis, and he was shareholder at Black and White 169. And he introduced me to the manager at the Blue and White Taxi Depot, and I went and worked there and had a trial and whatever, and I got to work on the driveway. So that was pumping petrol and selling LP gas and selling spare parts, doing stock takes and cleaning lights and working with the mechanics and doing all sorts of things. So while I was there, I met some friends, and they had FJ Holdens too. And in 1981, they had a sedan that was my mate owned with his father, and they and the other buddy had a ute, and so they invited me to come up with them for a day trip to Warwick for the Warwick Roundup. So I went up in the FJ 215, and the FJ ute followed us, and bit of a chilly day on a Saturday, but I was certainly in awe of the quality of the Queensland cars that were there compared to the FJ Holdens that I had seen sparingly around town, and also the ones that I knew of by comparison. You know, you saw David Johnson's Cosmic Blue FJ Special with, you know, the Mazda 929 headlights in the dash and a Continental spare tire kit on the boot. Just fantastic. But yeah, that was October of 1981. Now, around that time, my buddy had been telling me about this panel van that he'd bought on the way to the snow, and I really didn't think, too much of it, and I didn't realise that I'd actually be, helping them turn it into an Australian champion, but and also learning my trade on it. But it really firmly was educating me on the types of FJ Holdens that you could get. And so I left school in grade 12 at the around the middle of December, and by Christmas Eve, I had looked at a few, and there was one ute at Bundamba that my friend had said to me, well, let's go and have a look at it. And it was supposedly all done. Really nice little tricked up ute on 13 by 6 rims with FJ centers, but the rest of it looked pretty much stock except for the HD headlights that were in the front guards underneath the grille. Sorry, indicator lights, I should really say. My apologies. And I ended up buying that car on Christmas Eve. It was delivered for the princely sum of $2,500, and it had the motor, the gearbox, and the brakes all done, supposedly. Needless to say, within the next 9 months, they would be all having to be replaced. But it was a nice car. I didn't know that the sills had been bogged up, and there was 2 repairs to do in the right-hand door and 16 repairs to do in the left-hand door. But that would subsequently come out in 1988 when I stripped it to bare metal. But that was my ute, my FJ Holden 1954 Brisbane ute. 4403 was its number. So I got this ute on Christmas Eve of 1981. And I then started helping my friends with the panel van. And I really started off with, 2 left thumbs, I suppose. I wasn't really much help at all. However, I learned. And you graduate from holding a light. I became the best light holder in the Southern Hemisphere. And you learn about welding and painting and mechanical and all sorts of things. But needless to say, after the first Queensland state titles in June of 1984, the week after that, this fellow phoned and said, look, he's got a FJ Holden panel van. Do I know of anyone who would be interested? So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come and have a look at it. And it was white. It had brown spots on it. It had black spots on it. It had mag wheels. It had twin carburetors. It had lumpy cam. It had extractors. And so I took the twin carbies off and gave them to Basil. All the other stuff, the boys were really good counsel to me, like, a pair of older brothers, and just said, look, that is a cop magnet. So here's what we're going to do. We put it back to stock. Car went to stock, and then not only did the car go to stock, but I think we spent $127 on rings and bearings and brake kits and things like that, and then put the correct sub axles on it and the correct axles on it and drums and wheels and so on. And before I knew it, I had a FJ panel van that looked pretty stock, And my mate helped me. I bought $99 for 4 litres of paint and undercoat from Metro Ford, and we painted it in the driveway, on a dirt driveway. And I went to this old panel beater fellow that I knew, and he had all the colour chart. And so I selected the 1956 colour Royal Marine Blue. And then Dad had a friend who was, he was an engineer turned, he could make more money as a house painter than he could as an engineer. And we called him Jeffrey the Lion Tamer. So Jeffrey the Lion Tamer, he put the sign writing that I wanted on my panel van, because without the sign writing on it, looked pretty plain. And then I started fitting it out with NASCO accessories. I put on the sun visor, and I had a radio and had a parcel shelf and the mud flaps all around and wheel trims. And then we put weather shields on it and venties. And, you know, slowly but surely, I was starting to realize that this NASCO accessory bit is pretty good, and actually not only makes the car look a bit flash, but also makes it easier for you to operate in the car, and makes your life easier when you're driving. So that's what I did with the FJ panel van. And while I was driving that car, it gave me the opportunity to start taking my ute off the road to start refurbishing it. So I made, you know, the guards came off, and I stripped the back out, and, you know, got it ready for restoration, and found a new old stock motor for it and stuff like that, and had all that done, and had it, even the gearbox was reconditioned with new old stock gears and parts. So, you know, that was the journey that it took. But that was 1984, 1985, and I bought that panel van for $1,400. And then around that time, this fellow phoned and said, "Look, I've got an FJ Ute here. I want $100 for it. Do you know anyone that wants to buy it?" Well, I went around with my buddies, and one of them wanted it, and it turned out that it was I can't say identical. It was 13 numbers different to my car, my FJ Ute, same colour, same interior trim, same everything. So they would have been on the line together and painted in the same batch, because, you know, as I've spoken to members before, you needed 15 in a batch to paint a solid colour, to do a colour run. So they would have been in the same batch. And then that was sold on the 29th of April 1954 out of Brisbane and Eagers. So my friend bought that one. And when I was talking to the bloke, I just happened to, this fella's name was Des. And I said to Des, so how come you stopped driving the FJ? He said, "Oh, you know, I bought my wife a new car to drive down to the Melbourne Cup." I said, "Oh yeah, what'd you buy?" He said, "Oh, an X2. I said, "Really?" Yeah. I said, "Oh, what'd you do with it?" He goes, "Oh, it's over here in the shed. Do you want to have a look at it?" So I went over and had a look at it. And to cut a long story short, he said, "Oh, do you want to buy it?" And it took me 2 years of dealing with this guy before he actually worked out that, you know, I wasn't a hoon, and I wasn't going to hot rod his car, and, you know, I was going to treat it with a lot of respect and all that sort of stuff. So it took me 2 years to buy the car, and consequently we called it Desmond. And I bought a lot of accessories for that car. I had spats for it. I had a water bag carrier. I had headlights. I had overriders. I had the sun visor. I had front and rear tow bars, which he had fitted from the dealer. Inside, I had the horn ring, the parcel shelf, the diamond dot radio, the NASCO seat covers, the taxi bar. It even came as a dealer accessory with power brakes, with one of the VH brake boosters. So it was not a bad car. It was 4-wheel drums, and it handled like a wet bar of soap, but it was always good to me, and I kept it for quite a long period of time. And it wasn't a bad car. It wasn't a bad car at all. The next Holden I came across, Tex Reese said, "Oh, look, Julesy, your panel van's got windows. I've got a panel van down at my place that doesn't have windows. You can have it for $100. So I think I went down there with an oxy torch and we cut the sides out. And I should have taken the tags while I was at it. But I said, look, mate, that's all I really want. Here's your $100 and here's a case of beer as well. And thank you. So that gave me my windowless panels for the FJ if I wanted to go that way. Because around that time, there was no replacement panels for things. You just either made or you found an original one and you just did that. So that was fine. But then 1988, I needed to buy my own house, and just a little place is all I wanted to start off with. And I was just starting to save some decent money, and I had 3 cars, and you can't live in a car. So I sold my panel van. I sold my panel van for $4,000, and that helped get 40% of my house deposit. Then it was a matter of finding the rest. So, it was great me having an FJ Holden panel van. So after I had the van, I had to put my ute in. Sorry, after I had sold the van, I put my ute in storage, and I used my HD to go to the new little house. I had to engage with the engineers at work, and they did the footings for me to be able to put 3 carports into one big one out the front of the house. So there was 2 for cars and 1 carport as a breezeway and entranceway for the house. So that was good. And so it took me a little while to save up the money, but I put on out the front a big slab, and guys from work. So Mark Faulkner and Andrew Byers and Basil came over and helped me lay the slab, which was great. And then I had already put the footings in place. And then I was able to buy the roofing from Russell Tronk's wife, Jan. She helped me with that. And then Smithy got all the timber for me, and I put all the posts and beams up and all that sort of stuff, and then put the roofing on. And then Tuddenham came over and put some Oregon sides on for me. So then I could take some holidays, grab my ute, go down to the panel shop, spend 2 weeks and put it in colour. Because what I had done was go to TAFE, and Brian Jeffries was the teacher there. He's got an FJ panel van and an FJ ute. And so even though my dad had taught me how to spray paint, Brian taught me how to spray paint. So that was great. So I then brought my ute home, and I was putting my ute together from May of 1990, and I finished it at 4 a.m. on Christmas morning, and then literally went and had Christmas breakfast with friends, and then drove straight to Melbourne via Dubbo. So to go to the Bacchus Marsh Nationals for its first outing, and it was great. Didn't miss a beat. Didn't really have any problems. It got a bit hot, but middle of summer for an FJ Holden, what are you really expecting? But in the middle of all of that, I had around 1986, I had led the bid for bringing the Nationals to Queensland, and for it to be run by Queensland in Queensland. Prior to that, in a lot of instances, it was held in Tumut or Wellington or whatever, and different states had turns at running it. But I thought, I'm not going to be going all the way down there to run. We needed to start rotating it, and people were saying, oh, it should be done geographically. Well, okay, fine, we're going to have it in Alice Springs. But, logic came to the fore and people realised, well, we needed to actually, from 1984 onwards, start rotating it, from Canberra to Warina and then to Cleveland and so on. And it was quite sensible then. But, that provided a lot of opportunity for me to see how, a decent car show was run. And my FJ was off the road for those nationals, so I took my friend Michael's. He said to me, you take the van, so I did, and you'll see that at the end of my clips. So that was fine, and then I put my ute out for the 1990 nationals, and then I took it to Jindabyne for the 1994 nationals, where I got the judges' prize from Graham, which was very kind of them. So that was lovely. And the same year, 1994, in one lot, this guy rang me and said, oh, look, I've got 3 sedans, 3 specials, and a panel van, and a whole heap. It was actually a trailer full of parts, and I still got a lot of the parts. So I bought the whole parcel for $2,200. I sold the panel van for $700. This bloke wanted it, and I'm thinking, well, I've got a backyard that's now got 4 cars in it, a boat in the garage, and my FJ in the garage, and the HD's out, and didn't want things to go to rack and ruin. But anyway, so this fellow wanted the panel van, so he offered me $700. I thought, okay, fine, right. And then another guy came over, and he wanted to look at one of the sedans, and he wanted it for a parts car. So he offered me $750 for it. And he came over with his dad on a Sunday morning. And I thought, okay, that's fine. So he said, look, I'll send a tilt tray. I said, okay. So he came over with his dad, as I mentioned. And on the way through, his father said, oh, is that another FJ I can sort of see through the kitchen door into the garage? I said, oh, yeah, I've got my ute in there, and there's this other green sedan I've bought. And long story short, he said, do you mind if I have a look at them? I showed him, and he was sort of beside himself to get this green FJ because it didn't have a skerrick of rust in it whatsoever. And so he said, oh, look, can I give you $2,500 for it? I said, no, thanks all the same. I want to keep it. He said, what about 3? I said, no, I'm happy to hang on to it. And he said, well, what about $3,500? I'm thinking, 1994, that's pretty good money. So I let the guy have it. So that left me with one of the cars and all the parts. So I was happy to use the parts. But the other special, the other sedan, by today's terms, nice car. No one wanted it. So probably the dump is that way. And as the crow flies, it would probably be 4 kilometres from me. And I reckon it's probably about 40 metres down because no one wanted it and I didn't want to hang on to it. So that's where it probably ended up. Well, that's where it was, but what I'm talking about is depth. So that was a real shame because I would have preferred it to go to a good home. Never mind. And then in 99, we'd had our first, my wife Tracy and I'd had our first baby, and we were down the Gold Coast. And when I was growing up, I liked Mustangs. I liked a Mustang convertible, either a white one with red trim or a red one with white trim. And we were down at Coolangatta, and we'd just driven up to Tugun, and there was a dealer's there, and out the front on top of the big ramps that they have was a red convertible Mustang with a white top and Ford Performance wheels, 302, C4 Auto. And I just said to her, I'm going to buy that car. And Tracy said, over my dead body. But anyway, as it turned out, she didn't mind me getting the car. But what I did do, though, is I traded my ute in to buy it against the car. And I got record price for the ute. It was like $16,500 in $1999, which was, a lot of money for it. By today's terms, I suppose a car like that goes across the auction block at $80,000. It had like 48 NASCAR accessories on it. It was fully loaded. It was a nice car. But even the owner of the dealership came up to have a look at my ute, and he said, "Oh, this is the nicest car." He said, "Look, I can even comb my hair in underneath the shine, the gloss from underneath the floor pan of the car." He said, "This is the nicest car I've seen since doing the job." I said, "How long have you been doing the job?" He said, 40 years. So at that point, I knew I'd get a good deal with this guy. So look, it turned out okay. Ultimately, the Mustang did get stolen, and that car went to Kevin. My ute went to Kevin Petter, who lives in Adelaide. But anyway, nice car. So the following year, the boys had been babysitting my HD X2 wagon, and they really didn't have any more room for it, so they dropped it back over to us. We were living in the inner city in Norman Park, and I sold my HD X2 because I didn't have any room for it. So that was 2001. I was getting sick of, I had a nice company car, and my wife had a nice car, a pair of Commodores. But, when after 3 years of having a car on lease, you go to update the car, and you're getting the same car, and it's costing you $20,000 changeover. I'm thinking, this depreciation business isn't much chop at all. So what I really needed was either to buy a bomb or to buy a car that would appreciate or not depreciate, which is why I bought my GT Mustang. So that worked out well. And I've still got that car. So it's 2001. It's now 2021. So 2015, with the help of my late dad, I really did want to restore my Mustang, and so David Johnson gave me a good help with painting it and so on. But when I was there, I sort of got the restoration bug again, and I'm thinking, what I want to do is make a FJ wagon. And at the 1990 Nationals, the Dodds family that has the one and only, I met them, and they were very kind. They let me go over under in the four-door, the one prototype FJ panel wagon, four-door panel wagon. And so I always had that in my mind. And while I was working with David, I'm thinking, this guy's just so clever, because he's a coach builder as well. Not only just a great tradesman, but he can sort of do anything. So come 2015, 2016, I saw one of the two-door panel wagons pop up on eBay originally, and I'd missed out on a couple of panel vans. So I bought this. I bought one of this. There was three left that I knew of in Australia, and I got one of the three. And so that's what I'm working on now. So I'll show you some pictures of that. So besides getting the panel van or panel wagon all the way to its restoration, I'm probably just going to get the motor and gearbox in, and the engine bay all done up, and the chassis and suspension all done up, and new sills put on it, and then wet those in, and then that'll sort of do me to go to the next nationals. It'll be fine, so long as all the brakes are new and the engine's new and the gearbox is new and everything works like that mechanically. That's fine. And then when I bring it home, well, then I'll paint it and make it look nice and do all the rechroming and retrimming and stuff like that. But the other thing I like is books and NASCAR accessories, and I've sort of been doing that for quite a long period of time. And I really enjoy that. The Holden and NASCAR books tell you so much. The thing, because people might they would, for instance, I'm a 64 baby, so the Holden, the FJ, was 10 before I was even born. So there's folks out there, the former generation, they were forgetting things that I was learning, which is why it was always really important for me to listen to people and what they were telling me and thinking, okay, now I got that. But I liked reading a lot of the books, what was going on and what this was for and what that was for, and talking to Marie's dad or talking to one of the old General Motors painters about how they did things and whatever. They actually offered me a job in 1989, 1990, and they said, oh, we've got you recommended for a job. I applied for one job. They said, you haven't got that job. We've made another one for you because we really like your knowledge of Holden and how you are and how you connected in the Holden movement. And, there's a future for you in Holdens. Okay, that's fine. I heard nothing. And then 13 months later, I applied for another job at Acacia Ridge. And they said, oh, what are you applying for that job for? We've already got you recommended for another one. I'm thinking, it's 13 months ago. If you people can't get a job organised, why would I, it takes 13 months, why would I stick around and hang about? But anyway, so pretty soon I will be able to come out with my FJ. At the moment I'm driving it in my head, and I shouldn't be. I should actually be doing something. But yeah, I'm just getting myself organised. But everybody has a story with their old car. And at the moment, up until today, the 12th of September 2021, that's mine. And soon we'll have more to add to it. I've got a lot of great friends who've helped me get to this point, and I'm very lucky for it. But people seem to like what we're doing. They like the quirky home of Holden that we've got going at Jive Talking Garage on Facebook. So stop by, have a look at that. Look at our other videos on YouTube. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. But more importantly, enjoy your Holden. So besides getting the panel van or panel wagon all the way to its restoration, I'm probably just going to get the motor and gearbox in, and the engine bay all done up, and the chassis and suspension all done up, and new sills put on it, and then wet those in, and then that'll sort of do me to go to the next nationals. It'll be fine, so long as all the brakes are new and the engine's new and the gearbox is new and everything works like that mechanically. That's fine. And then when I bring it home, well, then I'll paint it and make it look nice and do all the rechroming and retrimming and stuff like that. But the other thing I like is books and NASCAR accessories, and I've sort of been doing that for quite a long period of time. And I really enjoy that. The Holden and NASCAR books tell you so much. The thing, because people might they would, for instance, I'm a 64 baby, so the Holden, the FJ, was 10 before I was even born. So there's folks out there, the former generation, they were forgetting things that I was learning, which is why it was always really important for me to listen to people and what they were telling me and thinking, okay, now I got that. But I liked reading a lot of the books, what was going on and what this was for and what that was for, and talking to Marie's dad or talking to one of the old General Motors painters about how they did things and whatever. They actually offered me a job in 1989, 1990. And they said, oh, we've got you recommended for a job. I applied for one job. They said, you haven't got that job. We've made another one for you because we really like your knowledge of Holden and how you are and how you connected in the Holden movement. And, you know, there's a future for you in Holdens. Okay, that's fine. I heard nothing. And then 13 months later, I applied for another job at Acacia Ridge. And they said, oh, what are you applying for that job for? We've already got you recommended for another one. I'm thinking, it's 13 months ago. If you people can't get a job organised, why would I, you know, it takes 13 months, why would I stick around and hang about? But anyway, so pretty soon I will be able to come out with my FJ. At the moment I'm driving it in my head, and I shouldn't be. I should actually be doing something. But yeah, I'm just getting myself organised. But everybody has a story with their old car. And at the moment, up until today, the 12th of September, 2021, that's mine. And, you know, soon we'll have more to add to it. I've got a lot of great friends who've helped me get to this point, and I'm very lucky for it. But people seem to like what we're doing. They like the quirky Homer Holden that we've got going at Jive Talking Garage on Facebook. So stop by, have a look at that. Look at our other videos on YouTube. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. But more importantly, enjoy your Holden.